Good evening, everybody. How you doing today? Outstanding, outstanding. For those that don't know, my name is Reyes. I am an author, poet, and community leader. I'm the founder of the podcast I So Bloom, a men's wellness space that you could come and have authentic conversations and see how brothers are speaking behind closed doors. And I have the esteemed pleasure of being able to moderate today's conversation. One of our guests is stuck in traffic, so he will be here shortly. And I wanted to respect all of your times. So I'm going to give these good brothers an introduction. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Marquis Baker, a proud Detroit native now rooted in Atlanta. He is a devoted husband, father, and community advocate. He serves as the administrator at Westlake High School, where he is committed to fostering student success and creating opportunities for growth both inside and outside the classroom. Passionate about strengthening families and promoting literacy, he also serves on the board of the Library Dads, Inc., a nonprofit that employs fathers to bond with their children through reading and active engagement. Marquis earned his undergraduate degree from Howard University. That's the real HU, is it? You sure? I don't know y'all do. And he got his master's degree from Georgia State University and is currently pursuing his PhD at Georgia State. Give it up for that one time. Getting all those letters behind your name. I collect them, brother. Guided by a belief in mentorship, service, and education, he works to inspire students and parents to lead with purpose and confidence. Once again, please give it up for Marquis.
Thank y'all.
And right next to the brother, we have Mr. Kenneth Braswell, CEO of Fathers Incorporated. Kenneth Braswell is the CEO of Fathers Incorporated and director of the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse. With over 35 years of national leadership, he is a trusted voice in responsible fatherhood, community advocacy, and storytelling. He is the author of several acclaimed books, including When the Tear Won't Fall, Too Seasoned to Care, and Strength of the Father, and hosts the I Am Dad podcast. His work has been recognized nationally, including honors from Oprah Winfrey on the OWN Network and the 2024 Leap Hard Fatherhood Award from Morehouse College. Kenneth has spoken in over 160 cities, 34 states, and 5 countries. However, he is New York and Brooklyn's very own, reaching over 1 million individuals. Please give it up for Kenneth one time. Outstanding. So, just to start off, I think it's absolutely amazing and is a testament to Atlanta culture how all three of us are native to another historically black city. But when we come here, we've been welcomed with open arms, and we're able to show our appreciation by dedicating our efforts into the community and giving right back. So I think that's a testimony. So a quick question, what inspired you both to start taking that charge and leading?
So for me, can you all hear me? So for me, it's always been just my passion for education. When I got down here to Atlanta, I was coming strictly for my master's. My wife, now girlfriend at the time, we took a journey from DC. And when I came down here, I wanted to find ways to become a part of Atlanta. In Detroit, I was very much so invested in the community, even at a young age. My grandfather is a very, very huge African-American studies buff, so I was raised in that environment. When I came down here, like I said, my number one goal was to find ways to enact that. So I got into schools, into mentorship, into tutoring first, as again, I pursued my master's. But like I said, the motivation has always been education and finding ways to tap into that.
You know, for me, it was a slow roll in, coming from Brooklyn, New York, and following a girl to Albany, New York, who was going to college in Albany, New York, and I followed her there, left my corporate job to follow her upstate New York. And when we got there, she was the influential voice in my life that said, you're more than just working as a clerk at the bank, right? You should really think about educating and doing something more with your life. And I didn't know how to take it back then because I came from a place whose only expectation was that we graduated, get a government job, get an apartment, work there 45 years, get a gold watch, and then retire. Buying a house wasn't in my plans. Being an entrepreneur wasn't in my plans. Going to college wasn't in my plans, any of that stuff. And so when I got up to Albany, met a few people who was in the space. She went to college. I started meeting Qs and Alphas and Kappas and all of those in the school, and like just watching these brothers doing their thing, and then became interested in what they were learning and decided to go to school. And so when I went for a computer science major and an accounting major at the same time. But met this white gentleman who was an anthropologist from Brown University, whose father ran the Hospital Association in New York and was personal friends with Malcolm X. And he used to tell me these stories of when Malcolm X came to his house for dinner, and him and his father talking about the civil rights and talking about those things. And I looked at myself one day and I was like, how does this white Irish man with red hair know more about his people than I do? And so he challenged me to start thinking more about us, and I started volunteering. That was in 1990. 2025, it's been 35 years. That spark of wanting to know more, and then knowing more and wanting to do more was kind of the inspiration for me getting to where I am today.
Shout out to you for living up to the challenge, sincerely. We got our third brother in the house, Charles Johnson. What up, brother?
What's going on, man?
You already know, man.
Good to see you, man.
We've been at this for years now.
We've been at this.
All right, I'm going to give you guys the quick brief bio of the good brother. Charles Johnson's passion for systematic change was ignited by the tragic loss of his wife, Kira, who died from internal hemorrhaging hours after routine C-section in April 2016, despite adamant pleas for help from her husband and loved ones. Exemplifying cries from rising maternal mortality, rates, and silencing of black voices in America, channeling his grief into purpose, he founded For Kira for Moms, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving birth outcomes and advocating for improved maternal health policies, educating communities, providing support to victims, loved ones, and approaching maternal mortality as a human rights issue. My brother, Charles Johnson, can you please give it up for him?
Thank you.
I made reference to us all being native to another historically black city prior to coming to Atlanta. So the first question is, what inspired you in Atlanta aside from the obvious, right? Were you involved prior to that in getting your hands dirty and being a member of the community and being of service prior to?
Yeah, so I think that I'm the exception, right? I am a native, right? One of the few in the proud. I was born right around the corner at, like, literally walking distance at Crawford Long, which is now Emory Midtown. And so for me, right, the way I kind of describe it, Mario, right, for me is the city of Atlanta was almost like my third parent. And I tell people, like, being able to grow up here and see leadership, and particularly black leadership, up close is an amazing thing. I tell people that I'll be 45 years old next month. I've never in my lifetime not known a mayor that was black. You understand what I'm saying? And not only did we have these leaders like the Andrew Youngs, like the Maynard Jacksons, the Hosea Williams that I got to see up close. I got to go to Ebenezer. I got to see Coretta Scott King. We didn't read about these things. We went on field trips. We experienced, we were immersed in all the things that make this city great. And so for me, my exposure was very early on. Both of my parents were active civically. My grandfather was extremely active in the church. He was very active, in his fraternity. He was active in the community as a mentor. And so I was able to see these things. It was what was expected of us, right? It's like you could be here and you could benefit from all of the amazing things that Atlanta had to offer, but you owed something back. And I saw that very early.
Indeed.
Let's speak real quick about this, because I just want to say this, because you are from Atlanta, and from anyone out here that is from Atlanta, speaking from the perspective of someone who came here. Spiritually, this is our Africa.
Indeed. Yes.
So I've gone to Africa, and when I got off the plane in Africa, there was an immediate spiritual connection with the ground. Wow. I've only experienced that one other time. the first time I came to Atlanta. When I came to Atlanta, so the Spirit calls us to this place to do what we do, and that's why we keep showing up. So all those signs that y'all putting up, no more availability, we close, we full.
Nothing you can do about it.
Ain't nothing you can do about it.
Ain't
We
nothing you
coming.
can do about it.
Well, the one that's hilarious. Two, what makes it even funnier, my birthday was this past Tuesday, and we had
Happy birthday, bro.
Thank you. We had a Bronx block party on Centennial Olympic Park. It was chopped cheeses outside, dominoes. We really brought the Bronx here. It was crazy. So, why wasn't you there, Charles?
Bruh, I ain't know nothing about it. You know I would have been there.
Word.
I ain't know nothing about it.
I'm gonna have to press.
You press the missus about that, man. But it looked. Listen, I was cheesing like a pizza on social media though because you deserve it. It looked beautiful, bro. It looked like a beautiful celebration, bro.
But that being, I said all of that to say, when I got to Atlanta, I've never felt so welcome somewhere in my life, ever. I was on crutches. I had people opening doors for me, giving me advice, letting me know what the weather was going to be like. I'm coming from the Baltimore region prior to this. They wasn't doing that in Baltimore.
Be more careful.
That part. So to keep the conversation going, when you hear the phrase Black fatherhood from each of you, what's the first story, image, or moment that rises to your mind? Quick, fast, go.
As cliche as it is for me to be with the library dads, and this is like my first real Black fatherhood memory, it's my grandfather teaching me how to read. My sister, 3 years older than me, she is scholastic genius. I'm kind of living in her shadow. But I was always so jealous of her being able to read and getting all the accolades and the awards. So I used to press my granddad about teaching me. And he would sit me down with the newspaper, of all things. And we did this for months. And I remember, like, getting my first word and how excited he got. And ever since then, it's just been a passion of mine to kind of follow this. But yeah, that's probably my first real solidified.
For me, it's interesting because I think the first thing that I think about when I think about Black fatherhood is damn. And the reason that I think about that, and I had a chance to meet John Amos, and I said to him, that resonated with me so much because for many individuals like myself, the day that James Evans died, our fathers died too. Because we didn't see him in our communities. We saw him every night on TV, and he in essence became the litmus test for what a Black man should be in a family, in the projects, with kids, struggling, everything beating them down, but still having the resilience to continue to show up. So that is the model framework for me when it comes to working with Black fathers, is this resilience is within us. We just have to find a way to tap into it.
So, man, listen, this made me emotional. It brought back a lot of memories. And the thing that, interestingly enough, that came to my mind, Mario, and just rock with me on this is my grandfather's VHS camcorder. And here's why, is that for every memory when I was growing up, I remember him being there with that camcorder. T-ball games, right? Concerts, like birthday parties, family reunions.
That was before the phones.
You understand what I'm saying? This is before the phone. This is over the shoulder, right? Like out there, he'd get there early at the game, set up his tripod, and he took so much pride in it. And I remember when he passed, going down in that basement and just seeing these walls he had of all these tapes. And for me, that represented consistency and being present. Right? Because he was there for all these moments. And that was like such a legacy to leave, right? Like, and it was just all those incremental moments, and he had filed them away so meticulously. And so for me, that is what Black fatherhood is. It's being present in consistency. And that's what that camcorder, like, it's crazy because I just, like, my youth flashed before my eyes, and I was scrambling, like, what is this? What can I hold on to? And like literally that hit me like a ton of bricks when you asked that question. I haven't thought about that in years, but that camcorder is what I think about. And it represents for me, like I said, being present and being consistent.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out there now, early, that Auburn Research Library would be a wonderful place to show us the first, the biopic of Charles Johnson and the documentary you put together, because you do deserve it, my brother.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man.
And if I'm honest, just answering my own question, there was a day. I grew up in a neighborhood called Co-op City. It's the largest cooperative in the world. 55,000 residents in one community. And every building has a couple of thousand people in it. In my building, and in my section, there was about 7 buildings in my section, maybe 4 dads present. Wow. And there was easily 80, 90 of us outside. And I'll never forget one day, my dad created a treasure map in these large sandboxes behind the building. And me and about 30 of my friends had to do the treasure map. And it started raining. And right when we were about to leave, he looks at us and says, "Why would you leave? Now the adventure begins."
Woo.
And that kind of even resonates now as an adult as things start to get hard. As a father, when it rains, the adventure's now beginning. And I can say that as a father of 3 girls and a son that's in college. So there's various storms in my life.
Yo, so I've met your pops, and and as you're telling that, so I can see him standing in the rain saying that in his stoic way, right? That's beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yo, I'm mad I wasn't there for the treasure hunt.
Yeah, I've been trying to find ways to try to duplicate that for mine. You know, and isn't that what we all do? We grow up with these heroes that all we try to do is pull up to that bar. That's an amazing thing. I got one last question for the group, and then I'll get into individual questions. They said there's no manual for parenthood, for fatherhood. If you wrote a manual, what would you name it?
Patience. And I would leave it just titled as that word. I probably have every chapter devoted to some manifestation of that word, but genuinely patience. That's something that I've learned for myself. I have a 2-year-old. That's something I've learned from myself. In relation to my own work, I give so much patience and consideration with my thousands of babies in my high school. I come home and recognize that I have to do it tenfold for my 10-year-old, for my wife now. So yeah, that'd be my manual, patience.
You know, at first I thought you said patience, and I'm like, oh, you putting them in the hospital? That's crazy.
But no, genuine patience.
Awesome. What about you, Kenneth?
I was going to say the Bible. But if it's my book, I'm going to answer it this way. There's a reason that there's no manual. Because if I had to write a book, it would be different for every individual I write it for. So I would have to have a different name for every person's manual, because my manual is not going to work for you. His manual is not going to work for me. His manual is not going to work for us. Nobody's manual out there is going to work for me. Our manual is literally created as a result of how we were parented. And it gets written over time, right? And you have to be able to follow that manual in a way that always puts love first, sacrifice second, and commitment third. And so it would be impossissible.
That's the title right there. There you go right there, love, sacrifice, and commitment. Oh, that's a wonderful answer. Thank you. What you got, Charles?
So, man,
He's like,
look, these
funny
brothers
you
are
said
coming
that
deep.
because I have a manual.
I know, right? I got that. I think honestly, mine would be called Beautiful Chaos. You know what I mean? And I think that for me on this journey as a single dad, when my life kind of changed drastically from the way I envisioned it, there were so many things that were so far away from how I envisioned my life going, and I felt myself constantly trying to fill those gaps or overcompensate for things that were uncompensatable, right? And I think I got to a point where the things that were wonky, the things that were, different, I leaned into when I began to embrace them. And I think that became liberating for me in a way that this may be different, but there's beauty in the way we do this. And this is our way, right? The way I communicate with my kids, the way we do things, the way we approach life, the way we celebrate their mother's absence, the way we do everything is ours. And we take pride in that. We've been able to find beauty in that. So I think it'll be like, that's why I call it, it's like, it's wild, but we make it work. At the end of the day, like, I've come to a place that, like, not only do I embrace it, but I really find a lot of pride in it.
Awesome. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think
That title made my baby jump. Right, you don't have a book, right? Yeah, I'm gonna press you. That's gotta get written.
indeed.
Who can tell the beautiful chaos? Man, bro,
Look at that.
My literary agent.
I'm with you.
Call
I'm
Ken.
telling you, I got you.
No, I love that we have different age groups up here. Me and you are the same age. You're a little younger. You're a little
Trying to
older.
say about me.
Listen, OG. It ain't my fault. But
That I was born in the 1900s.
That being, well, we all were. Oh no, not were you? Okay.
Hold. Hold.
I barely made it. But that being said, I think you talked about it being liberating, and you've done so much work to set the groundwork for us that we often take it for granted that we were able to find therapy, find self-care, and all of these things that allow us to be better fathers because we became better men first. And I think your generation has a courage that ours didn't have, in that the entitlement that we should have been born with, that we deserve a space at the table. And specifically for you, you do so much work in the educational system, in literacy. How do you approach your job now, trying to rewrite a narrative in an institution that historically has not engaged black fathers?
To the first point that you made, just kind of about this intergenerational space that we're in. I literally say it all the time. My kids laugh at me, my coworkers, somebody will give me a compliment, like, I'm a reflection of those that were before me. And my grandfather said to me all the time, and it's really stuck with me because I believe in that. And to be in the space where, like you said, I'm 33, y'all. I'm young. I ain't that young. But to have been in a space where
That sounds like a 33-year-old statement.
I've been around the block once, and not
There you go. Once is real. I respect that.
But to that same space, though, having been on the last piece of that, you can't express yourself, live hard through those emotions, and then being able to step into that space, I always advocate for my students, especially my young men, to live in that emotion, be able to rationalize it, have these conversations, so that way as we get to this space of being black fathers, and specifically in my space as a young one, we're able to better raise these men. It becomes difficult to have this burden on your back of hiding your emotion and then try to transfer or try to get a child, whether it be a boy or a girl, to understand themselves and live within themselves. So again, it's been a benefit, a little bit of a curse, but like I said, just trying to rationalize and having a space is important.
First, I wanted to say thank you for being an example and showing these young men, and I'm going to focus on the young men at the moment, to be whole human beings. A lot of us were taught very toxic mantras. Boys don't cry. Don't show your feelings in public. All of these things, right? And I could say, as a grown man, I found my strength in my lane. The spotlight finally came when I was well in my 40s, and I shared a tear. And I let them see what it's like to be a whole human being, and I stopped holding it back. So I want to thank you for that, sir.
No, well, thank you. But it's funny how something as simple as, like I said, pouring into these young men matters. So I'm not making this story up. This is just last week, a young man got into a fight. I get him in the office. I'm trying to express to him or get him to understand, right, why the consequences are coming. But one thing I always do is give them a space. And it's a two-folded thing. I like to give them that space so I hear them, but also I have to know what I'm responding to and attacking, right? So I start to ask him what's going on, and when I tell you the young brother, again, he got emotional after he starts explaining the story. But he's like, man, me and my mom got into it this morning. She didn't hear me out, It was about me and my dad. Don't live with his dad, so he's like, something happened with my dad. It was a whole story. And the brother started crying, and we had a whole moment. And I'm like, see, this is why you're acting out in this way, why you can't engage with your feelings. You have a whole thing going on, and nobody's listening to you.
He doesn't have the words, and he's been told his whole life to be quiet, shut up and listen, kids are to be seen and not heard, and then somebody finally gave him that platform to open up.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. I just asked him what he needed and what happened. And
look at what empathy would get you.
Wow.
I love that. I love that.
You said with your guys, you create a safe space. It's how I explain when someone asks me what I do. I always say I create a safe space for fathers. I create a safe space for fathers to be the best fathers they desire to be. Right? It's that safe space and understanding how to create that so that vulnerability feels safe to someone who's never been taught how to be vulnerable without someone taking advantage of them.
And you said something key. If you can't find a safe space, be the safe space. And then what you're looking for is now found in you. So, Kenneth, you know, I'm not going to say how many times you've been, but you've been around the block before. For a career.
A couple of times backwards.
And a legacy that has spanned decades. Over 1 million people reached, impacted by your work. A double-sided question. When you started, did you have any inclination that you would reach that many people? And then what's one thing about black fatherhoods that still surprises you?
I knew what God's calling was on my life. It was real clear. And it happened at the worst time of my life when I was ready to take myself out of here.
Wow.
And I prayed because that was the only thing I knew how to do. That's what my mother taught me to do. When you don't have answers, you pray. And I said to God, I said, give me a reason to get off of this couch, because if I don't get up, this is where they'll find me. And he said softly to me, speak to the hearts of men. And I had no idea what that meant because I was in other spaces. I was doing other things. I was a DJ. I was on the radio. I was all kinds of things.
And you heard that in like the back. Like
yeah, it was like that.
Yeah.
You know, that speak to the hearts of men. And so I sat on that couch for another 7 hours, just having that go in and out of my mind. And I got up and I sat down at my computer. And 3 hours later, I had a 15-page perspective for Fathers Incorporated. It came out of speaking to the hearts of men. And
that was the download right there.
That was what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this?
Sometimes we try to create. Sometimes God uses us to create.
Right.
And those are the ones that just pour out.
Mm-hmm. And so what I've learned to do over the course of my career is to not try to create my path, but just follow the breadcrumbs. And I'm always making sure that people who work for me, that's in my inner circle, are people that will turn left with me without asking me why I'm turning left. Understanding that I'm following the breadcrumbs, and they have to trust in my belief that the breadcrumbs are going to lead me in a perfect place.
Trusting your lead because you've already submitted to a much greater power.
Yes, absolutely. So 21 years later, right, because we started in 2004, I started in the basement of my house with the washing machine cranking in the corner, cobwebs on the door. Every time somebody went to the bathroom, the pipes running across my head, all kinds of things in the basement. It's 2004. Came out and decided that I was going to apply and bid for the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse. My budget was $30,000 at the most then. Didn't think I was going to get it, applied for it. Fast forward, I'm sitting in church on a Bible study night, the phone rings and it says, you won. It's a $7 million contract. That was in 2010. I've signed 5 contracts since then. And each one was more and more and more and more and more that has allowed me to do the work nationally, not just locally. And so I know fathers from every corner of the earth, not just black, Latino, Appalachian, you name it, I've been in those spaces. But specific to your question about what still surprises me about black fathers, absolutely nothing, because my expectation is high of them.
Talk that talk. Talk that. That's an applause line if y'all ain't know. That's an applause line. Here we go.
Absolutely nothing, because my expectation for them are so freaking high, and I know they can reach it. So when they do something spectacular, or you see a meme that says, oh, you know, the dads are doing, I expect that. Show me something that I'm not expecting. Push the limits of what men can do, and I think that ultimately the number one thing that they can continue to push is something that you said, and that is consistency. Indeed. Show up, show up, show up, show up.
I love that. I love that. Now, Charles, I always look at you as an enigma for me, because we've been blessed to do so much work together, but I know you personally, right? See you in the gym and the way you challenge yourself, right? So I'm going to use that framework of challenging. Maternal health is often looked at like a woman's issue. What challenges have you faced to bring men into the fold and teach them that it is a specific issue that affects them as well?
Yeah, you know, listen, I appreciate that. I think being transparent, I think that it started with myself, right? And understanding how I needed to show up in this work, and how I needed to be a student first, and I needed to understand really what responsible allyship is, because of the fact that there are women, primarily black women, that have been doing this for decades and centuries, and who have literally birthed this nation and have been screaming from the top of their lungs that black women are being exterminated, are being mistreated, are being discriminated against, are being harmed. And oftentimes those pleas have been falling on deaf ears, right? So as a man showing up and very relatively quickly getting a lot of attention for the work that I was doing, I didn't understand that it was because I was showing up as somewhat of an enigma, as a man who was using my voice to speak about things that were primarily categorized as a women's issue, right? And also understanding is oftentimes as black men, we don't understand, and we don't think of ourselves as having privilege, but understanding what that privilege is. Even as a black man, we're here coming into a space, and our words and our resonate differently. So that's the first thing. And then I think is, like I know Ken will tell you in his experience with fathers with decades, is that we as men want to be there. We want to be present. We want to be exceptional. Sometimes it's about the pathway or the tools or the mechanisms to get there, right? And so it's also about a paradigm shift and a narrative change about what being present, and we have these things about this notion of what present is like when you start playing catch with your son, or teaching him how to dribble or to read, like you were saying with your grandfather. But helping brothers understand that it starts way before that. It starts even as early as preconception. It starts with understanding your own health and understanding how that informs the health of your child. It starts by understanding that you are a partnership from go, right? Regardless of what the dynamics in the relationship are, you all are a partnership. Understanding what the difference between a doula, a midwife, and an OBGYN is. When we're going to these appointments, we are going to these appointments. What questions do we ask? And if I can't make it, I'm going to FaceTime in. And if I can't FaceTime, this is what Mario wants to know. And understanding how being present, how being consistent can have incredible ripples in the pond on the entire trajectory of your child's life. And for that matter, your partner's life, right? Reducing instances of postpartum depression, complications, NICU stays, all these things. And so helping us understand, one, how important it is, and then how to show up, right? And so that's why we put a lot of focus into developing tools and resources for men to better understand those things. And the response has been amazing. And then the other thing we're trying to do is like just show men and fathers that this is really dope. You know what I'm saying? And it's really fun and it's really beautiful. And, you know, we're going to be doing something this weekend, and I'm going to drag y'all out there too. Even we're doing something in partnership with a group of men called the Dad Games. And we're going to be at Baby Palooza this weekend having this beautiful competition with all these brothers. Mario's going to be there. And, you know, we're going to have a swaddle challenge. We're going to see who can swaddle the baby the fastest. We're going to play trash can basketball with dirty diapers. We're going to, you know what I'm saying, we're going to strap on medicine balls and see how many times can you get up off that couch like your pregnant wife, right? And it's going to be this reframing and this reshaping of what fatherhood looks like and how fun and how cool it can be, man. And so it's been
the coolest thing I think any of us probably ever did.
No doubt. No doubt. It's the dopest gig ever, man. And like it's so funny. Like I think that I'm in a place now where my challenge is not how to be a dad. It's really my challenge is finding my identity outside of it.
Now let me put these pre questions down and let's have a conversation. It's interesting you say that. I am looking at the tail end of my, and I don't want to say tail end because you're a father forever.
Yeah.
But with them being in the house, and one of the best things I ever did for myself was tracking my journey. While being a writer, being a performer, poet, I've been able to recognize when I reached each next stage, what those challenges are and who I was when I reached them. Now that I'm looking to be of service outside of that, I also had to remind myself that I am not a service provider. I am not here to deliver anybody's internet, joy, or anything outside of existing as that whole human being. So I look at the three of you brothers and your success as unfortunate enigmas. I think there's beauty in everything y'all are doing. I think other people are doing it, but because you guys are black men doing it, people are like, wow. Imagine black fathers
It's a
showing
unicorn.
up. Yeah, exactly.
But it's the low expectation.
That
That's
part.
why I'm not surprised that the four of us is having this conversation and that we're doing what we're doing. You in the creative space, the literacy, the service provision, and the advocacy. So you said something about how the space of maternal health has been this space where men feel like they should not be in that space. I think there's another element of that, and the reason that we don't feel like we should be in that space is because we were always told it's not our space. Yes. Right? I remember growing up in my house where my mother always said, get out of the kitchen. And she would be in there cooking, and me and my brother would go in, and she was like, get out of the kitchen. And she would yell, men not supposed to be in the kitchen. That's a North Carolina Southern, get out of the kitchen. Wow. When we went to the hospital and our moms were having babies, who did they not allow into the space? Men.
Now, these are those kind of mother wounds that we don't like to talk about as a community. We talk about toxic masculinity to further the flames of gender wars. But how much of that toxicity also comes from shared understanding of what those responsibilities are? Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful space for, I'm going to get y'all to, y'all not that old, but I think that ground that we kind of stand in to be able to be on both sides of this. Like coming off of that peak of, again, having the narrative of toxic masculinity or the mothers that have unfortunately succumbed to their narrative and staying in that woman's role, right? My wife was the biggest advocate for herself and made me step into that role. I was reading the books and taking the advice that she was giving me, and it gave me the motivation and courage to step into that space and be the advocate for her because I realized very early that my voice did matter in that space. But no, like I said, it's a very interesting space to be in, to be able to see that past and then look toward that new future piece. So.
No. Keep the mic, because I wanted to ask you specifically also. You have your fingers on the pulse of a generation that I get to see in my house. I don't get to see the assembly line come through. What's your most proudest shift that you see in this generation coming up next?
easily how much they engage with knowing. So I always tell my students, like, y'all don't have a problem with, or let me say it the opposite way. They hate school because of the structure of school, right? The four walls, the classroom space, but none of them dislike learning. They get on TikTok all day and learn. They search Google and learn these dances, all of these things that constantly project these ideas into their minds. Now, some of the things that they learn could be, more useful or better suited, but no, this idea of learning and how much they are willing to engage with technology to learn. And like I said, I always try to promote the right things and how to use this technology, but no, they are eager. And I think that's something we did not have access to as much. And one thing that wasn't even promoted for real in some of our communities because we were faced with some of those more hard shifts.
Talking about the digital divide.
Well, I wouldn't even say the digital divide. I think it is a genuine interest for them in learning. And while some of us, the Bronx or Detroit, Atlanta, we have all of these experiences here, I think we were focused on other things growing up in our community.
Survival.
And
Yeah.
to have a space where the world is still the same but a bit different, like I said, I see them engaging much more in that space of wanting to learn. Not necessarily the content of the schoolhouse, but again, wanting to learn is something I could take from a 14-year-old.
Awesome. One, thank you for that answer. Two, Charles, he tried to take a shot at us. Want to see something real quick? Watch this. Watch this. Where were you at on 9/11?
Underneath my desk in second grade.
I was at war. That's the difference. That's the age difference right there.
Come on. I can recall it.
I can recall it. I'm curious from you, Kenneth. Looking at these three younger brothers, what's your most proud moment about the shift in the generations that came after you?
Y'all own it. Like, the boomers are always trying to give their generation away. Like, it's like, we don't even want to be attached to this. We ain't, this ain't our problem. That ain't our problem. I'm just trying to get my retirement and move on. I'm not trying. Like, millennials, Gen Zers, Xers, alpha babies, or alpha gens, and what they're calling beta babies, right? Every one of these generations own each other, and it's interesting because so generations are turning much faster than generations used to turn, right? I agree. The boomers were like forever, and then
they still try to dominate the headlines.
Right.
Give it up, y'all.
Yeah, give it up.
Stand down.
Right. But these generations are spinning. But what I'm always like, I laugh a little bit about it from my music background, this creative background, was think how fast the music industry changed in terms of platform for music, where it moved from like a reel-to-reel to a vinyl to a cassette tape, 8-track. I'm gonna get to where you understand. I'm getting in a second. From 8-track, cassette,
Napster,
CD, Napster, yeah, CD, Napster, virtual. And all of that stuff, the last kind of 4, happened really, really fast. And as a result, and I was talking to the young lady out front about this, we were talking about TikTok, and she said that she was talking to, I believe, her niece. And her niece had seen something on TikTok, and she said, I learned about X, whatever it was. I learned about something on TikTok, and I said, we got to be really careful about our language so that we're interpreting things for our youth so that they understand what's happening. She didn't learn anything. She became aware of something. When you become aware of something, you could say, I became aware of maternal health by looking at TikTok. But I didn't become learned of it because I didn't do the research it takes to understand what this issue is. And I think that's the disconnect between the generations as we've moved along, that we don't spend enough time digging into what we hear, and we take what is not truth for truth, and we're very easily and vulnerable to misdirection.
That's spot on, sir. Second, I love the emphasis on research while literally sitting in the historic Auburn Research Library, the first place where brothers and sisters were allowed to read in the segregated South. Do we understand the level of history and the way our ancestors are looking at us on this panel and in this crowd right now, with the level of how revered they look at us? I can't overstate the importance of this location. Now, to the audience, I want to invite you guys to the microphone in case you have any questions and or comments while I go into this next question. Don't all get up at the same time. I don't want nobody to get trampled over. But for each of you, what's the biggest misconception and or stereotype you have found once the spotlight was put on to you and the work that you do?
And this might kind of go in line with Kenneth's work, but the idea that black fathers don't read. A very big misconception, and I remember last year we did a 50-day reading challenge. It started like in October, and we did it to the end of the year. And I remember talking to Kari, he's our founder and president, and I was even skeptical about the challenge. And when I tell you the amount of dads that poured into that space and did this 50-day challenge and posted about it and sent us back the cards, it was just insane. And I got to defeat a stereotype that I didn't believe, but I thought existed somewhere in this world. And yeah, like I said, no, it was powerful to see that be debunked.
Indeed.
For me is the perceived societal belief that it is easy for a father to disconnect from his children and leave his family. It is not easy. I don't care what it looks like on the surface. It is an agonizing pain not being connected to your children and to your family. It is in our DNA. The problem is we find other ways to compensate for the absence, right? And so we
Crying
fight
through abuse of substance, sexual abuse, whatever it is.
having more women, having more babies. 'Cause, I mean, think about why a guy has a baby today, one tomorrow, one next week. Because that craving for that family, for that connection, for that stuff is in the DNA. Indeed. You want them to point it in one direction, but the thirst is something else. And so I think we need to stop always framing, particularly black fathers, in this space that, oh, it's easy for y'all to leave. No, it's not easy for us to leave. We might make it look easy, but I can tell you that any father who's away from their child agonizes about not being with them daily.
1,000%. I could tell you honestly, as president of Undugu, men's safe space for men of color, to have authentic and vulnerable conversations, I personally have spoken to hundreds of fathers that are separated from their children and have contemplated suicide, have drank and abused themselves into the hospital, have ended up in prison because of the frustration that they weren't able to be legitimized and looked at as a valid parent. These are real stories from real people, and all we ever see is the result, i.e. the fight that that student got into. We don't realize there's a whole narrative that they were predisposed to that happened right before that now they're trying to conquer, and the only emotion that society pretty much expects of us is the anger.
Charles, I'm sorry to interject before I let you go. It was a lot of powerful moments that have happened on this stage, and every time a spirit moves, I have to address it. I was raised by my mom, single parent. I had my son 2 years ago, and I literally sat down and prayed, and I told myself, how am I going to raise a man and I don't have a relationship with my father? And when I called my father, when I tell you we had this exact conversation that you just said about how much he craved and longed for this experience, and that's a whole nother story in itself, why that was separate. But
what did that do for you, though?
It gave me a lot of like closure and acceptance into his being. We had a conversation. I always joke about how my son will never know me before like Dr. Baker, but I never knew who he was, one as a person, individual, or as a man. And like I said, we talked for like 4 hours on that phone call, and have been committed to speaking every month since then, at least once a month, just to get us back going. And when I tell you, it's just motivated me to be present and be consistent and not hold him accountable for that past, but allow for us to build toward the future. And just phenomenal statement you just made. It just took me on a whole nother.
I absolutely love
up
that.
in the throat moment.
Congratulations. Charles.
Yeah, I think that like, for me, this whole notion of gender wars is the biggest crock of you know what and distraction. Yes. right? And so for me, and I'll tell you how this kind of manifests itself in my work, and just transparently, like I said, when I went out here, I did a lot of work, and I still do a lot of work, just earning the trust of women to show up in this space and be an ally, and just being real. Like a lot of the women who I've built relationships with in birth work, not some but all, are radical feminists, right? And believe that oftentimes a lot of the problems that we have in society are the result of men and how we have been careless with our privilege. And so as I kind of made this pivot about 2 years ago to really be intentional about the manner in which we curate tools, resources, and experiences for fathers and how to show up, one of the things that I was anticipating was the blowback from some of these women about, we shouldn't center, right? And that's what I was expecting. Some of those women that I was anticipating having those challenging conversations with have been the biggest supporters.
Always is.
The biggest ones that have said, we have been waiting for y'all to show up. This is what we need, and championing this. And so for me, when we talk about these things, and we could go in a whole, and there needs to be a whole other thing, and I'll show up. When we talk about just really leaning into the things that bring us together, and opportunities where conversations highlight unity between Black men and Black women, and partnership is so critically important. I think that that's, for me, one of the biggest notions that has been dispelled. It feels so good every time it is, right? When we put these programs up and we see the way that the women are championing their partners, and they're championing, and they see the value in us as a solution to these problems. And so that's really just a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you. Thank you, ladies, for always showing up for us. Sincerely. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. We are excited to be part of the solution. Now, to our audience.
Well, thank you for all of you being a part of the panel. Quick one, yesterday evening, we had Morehouse College professor of philosophy, Professor Ilya Davis here, speaking about being a whole human being. It made me think, hearing you guys talk and then thinking about what he said yesterday, being the father of two young men, I remember when both of them were born, it was just, the idea in my mind was I'm trying to grow a person that knows how to love, be loved, and is just gonna be an overall good person. You know what I mean? In the world. And I'm starting to see the fruits of that labor every day. But I'm thinking about wholeness, right? And thinking about, at that time, being a brand new father, I was like probably 50% at being a whole human being. Working on me. And I think that having them and having responsibility that I never had before helped get me. Now, by no means am I 100%.
I was going to ask you, what percentage do you think you're at now?
Right now, I'm a good 85.
85 is solid.
I think I'm a good 85. I got some work to do. But just thinking about that idea of being whole, and I'm thinking about all the work that you all are doing. What would you see? Because we talked about the why you do what you do, but where do you see yourselves as in the work that you're doing? What would make you whole within that work? Like, what would be like the ideal endpoint that's not the actual endpoint? That's my question.
I'll set it off. For me, having more children use art as therapy, allowing their creativity to paint the pictures, write the stories, give the prose that they didn't know were inside of them, and then allow themselves to study it.
My whole moment would probably be seeing my son read to his daughter or son. Yeah.
think I'm gonna cry with you on that one.
Yeah, I know. You almost had me, bro. And so for me is I have these half moments, but I know my whole moment. The half moment for me is while we provide services for fathers in Metro Atlanta in direct service, over 1,000 in the last 5 years. Oftentimes when I'm out in random places, because they get to see my folks more than they see me, but when they hear my name, it's like, oh, Mr. Braswell, I went through your program, and now I'm with my kid. Now I have custody. Now I have, random. I was in a Cracker Barrel in Cobb County, and I had a Fathers Incorporated. And
Why were you in a Cracker Barrel?
Not correct.
That French toast, my boy.
Southern Fried? Nah, I don't even know why I was in
Them
there.
biscuits.
Stop it. It was the only place for a long time I could find black Santa Clauses. Ooh, that's a whole nother story, right? Black Santa Clauses in the Cracker Barrel. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, but that's that half moment. My full moment is going to come 10 years down the road from here, where I'm wearing that same shirt and one of his kids walk up to me and say, Mr. Braswell, my father changed when he went through your program. That's going to be when my full moment comes.
True legacy. I love that.
So for me, like a long time on this work, I was really trying to use this work to fill a space that couldn't be filled, right, of loss. And I was in Texas probably about 5 years ago, and I gave a keynote, and a woman stood up in the audience and she asked a question that literally knocked the wind out of my chest. And she said, Mr. Johnson, are you hopeful that your boys will continue this work? And I was like, whoa. And so the thought that these issues that we're fighting so hard for would still be an issue when it's time for my sons to bring life into this world. And that they would fear that what happened to their mother would happen to their wives. It did something to me in that moment. And it allowed me to singularly focus on the fact that this stops here. This will not be an intergenerational problem. And that my focus now is putting myself out of business, right? Like that there's no longer a need for organizations that fight to save mothers and eradicate systemic racism in healthcare. And so for me, that full moment will be when we're able to talk about the maternal mortality crisis in a historical context. And so we have a very aggressive goal for 0 preventable deaths. And I have no desire to be doing marches, and I'm not trying to be, and God bless, I'm not taking shots, but I'm not trying to be Susan G. Komen. I'm not trying to be marching 30 years from now, right? I'm not trying to be going back to Congress. I'm trying to talk about how we fixed it. And let's go on to fix something else. Let's pull some of these babies out of these sex trafficking rings. Let's do something else. But this stops because moms get to go home with their babies. And so I think for me, like I said, we have a very aggressive goal, and I had to make it aggressive because if not, we'll sit around admiring the problem. And so we have a goal of 0 preventable deaths from pregnancy and pregnancy-related causes by the year 2030.
You said sitting here admiring the problem?
We'll sit around admiring the problem, right? Because that's what happens, right? People will sit around and they'll poke and they'll prod it and they'll want to fund hundreds of millions of dollars of research, right? Or let's do this pilot. We know what the problem is. We know what works and we know how to fix it. Are we going to take the bold steps to do that? When I was in Congress, bro, and I know you're a service person, and happy belated Veterans Day, and those of y'all who served, like I went to Congress and I looked this congressman in his eyes that tried to tell me that we don't have the resources to do this whole, like straight up. For the cost of a single aircraft carrier, you can provide doulas and midwives for every mom in this country, right?
For one aircraft carrier.
For one carrier, one, right? And you know, it's about how we view things. And I don't want to go off my tangent, but that would be my whole moment, man. Is that, you know, like, for my boys to say like,
thank you, Dad.
well, not even that, man. Like, I'm not even thank you, but like, we might have lost, but they didn't win.
Just kind of illustrate the moment that you talked about admiring the problem. And so I think about this brother here with Library Dads, because I can tell you that on any given week, someone is sending me a meme or something saying, yo, you see this? You see this? And I'm like, yeah, I see it, I see it, I see it. But then my question is, what do you see? Because I see something different. And so I'm not admiring the problem of fathers not reading with their children. What I am admiring is that he has created an opportunity for men to find their tribe.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's deeper than being excited about seeing guys hugging their babies. And
Undugu means brotherhood in Swahili.
yes.
And even though our organization is named that, every single one of you holds space for Undugu.
Right. It's the depth. And so we don't go deep. It's always surface for us. And because it's always surface, we respond to it in surface ways. What do we do with it? Reshare it. But the moment he sends them an email and says, hey, could you donate so we can buy more books for the fathers and kids who are going in there?
Spam.
We swiping up, right? But for the person who sees what he's doing, like I said to him when I met him, I said, yo, I got 2 storage bins of black books. They're yours. Yeah. Because I know what it means to scale up and do that work and not be able to have the resources to give to those fathers. How did he know that 10 years before these publishing companies were going to open up their catalog to me? I was going to build these storage bins with black books. They're sitting in my storage bin for a day where I have the opportunity to say, you know what? I got your books.
You know what, Marquis, what Kenneth just said struck me like a lightning bolt, because I had the audacity to come down here and set up books to sell. I'm going to gift you the whole bag.
Well, one, thank both of y'all. But the idea of promoting that literacy and giving this stuff to the community is what we all about. So we appreciate you, and them fathers tenfold. Like he said, it is the random Library Dad T-shirt moments when dads walk up and say, y'all are changing our lives. So thank you, brother. Thank you.
Literally the easiest thing I've done all day. I believe we have another question.
I do have a question.
And I know we are running very late on time. I'm going to respect everybody's time here.
So it's going to be really quick. I just want to say thank you to you guys for being vulnerable. It feels like the spirit is moving in this place. But I do have to ask a question, since we are in the Auburn Avenue Research Library. We got archivists in the building. We got genealogists and reference individuals as well. So the question is to you, Mr. Charles. What happened to the videos? The videos that your grandfather created, that wall that you talked about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they're at my uncle's house.
Okay.
My uncle has them, right? Who was, he's that, you know, everybody got an uncle, right? And we love him. But they're at his house because he was tasked with digitizing them.
Okay.
Right? How many of those got actually digitized? That is going to be my holiday project, right? To go do an audit. And so next time I see you, I'll be able to report back to you. But that is where they are. They're at my uncle's house. Now I've seen them. I put my eyes on them, okay, but I don't know how much has been actually digitized. But that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that question.
So just a follow-up, the Central Library Special Collections Department, they put out a blog post recently about preserving your personal archives.
Yes, ma'am.
We can hook you up with the link, and then of
Please.
course we are a resource for you guys as well. So
that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, guys. I believe we've been notified that we could have been here all day, but before we do let you guys go, I want to thank our esteemed panel. You guys have, yes. You guys have opened up doors in all of our minds that we didn't know were closed. Thank you for your transparency and sincerity and authenticity. You've added texture to this conference. And to the Auburn Research Library, as always, thank you for having us. You ain't got to go home, but they said you got to get out of here. Y'all have a good one. Peace. Please, please, please.